Thank you to From Day One. I'm Abby Schneiderman, and I'm the co-founder and co-CEO of Everplans. I'm also the author of In Case You Get Hit by a Bus, How to Organize Your Life Now for When You're Not Around Later, which hopefully you've seen some copies floating around today. And so what we're going to talk about today is this topic of in case you get hit by a bus. We are all about helping people prepare ahead for the unexpected. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about how my company Everplans came to be. Then we're going to talk about how we're working with employers and also the 4 pillars of life and legacy planning, so everybody here can start thinking about what to do in advance of getting hit by a bus. So in case you get hit by a bus. But I'm just trying to figure out how to move this clicker. Let's see. Is this starting? Okay. So just a little bit about how we came to be. The original idea for Everplans came about actually when I was planning my wedding. This was over 12 years ago. And I'm an entrepreneur. And I was thinking about wedding planning, and I was using all of these online sites like Martha Stewart's websites and the knot.com, and I was on them every single day. I was on their apps and their guides and their calendars and their checklists. And I say this all the time. I don't know why my brain went from marriage to death, but I started to think about life's over or what's next and what are the other life stages are there and what are the other resources that are going to guide me through and handhold me through the rest of my life. And I just started looking into it and I found that sure enough, there were plenty of resources for planning weddings, plenty of resources for having kids, plenty of resources for financial planning, plenty of resources for buying your first home. Even retirement planning. But then after retirement planning, that was it. There were no other life stages covered online. And so I mentioned this idea to now my longtime colleague and co-founder, Adam Seifer, who's another tech veteran from New York. And I said, Adam, who's helping people deal with death? And he said, well, somebody is, because it's the biggest life stage that there is. And I said, well, I don't know. I've been looking into it. And so we ended up meeting for about a year. And after about a year, we were shocked and kind of appalled that the one life stage that's probably the hardest, most difficult, most complicated to deal with had no modern resources associated with it. And so we decided to change that. And we started Everplans. Everplans, we started by writing content. We wrote articles on how do you write a will, to what do you wear to a funeral, to how do you name a power of attorney. And sure enough, not only did people start coming to our website, but we noticed that we were coming up as like the #1 result in Google for every article that we were writing, which proved to us that there was really an opportunity to help people around this topic. A big part of our personal story and my journey in doing this company and really over the past 10 years is that along the way, something terrible happened in my family, which was kind of crazy that this happened a year after we started this company, which was that my 51-year-old brother was on his way to lunch on vacation with his family when he was struck and killed by a 20-year-old impaired driver driving down the wrong side of the road. And it was a disaster for us. Luckily, my brother had made some financial arrangements, but he didn't have a will. We had no idea how to access his accounts. We had no idea what accounts he had. And my family was left in this terrible situation of having to track things down, figure out what he would have wanted in a really short amount of time. And this is actually, by the way, that last picture was a picture from the Everplans holiday party about 3 months ago. This is a picture of my brother and I, obviously from a very long time ago. It's my favorite picture of us together. But what happened with Doug was something that we hear about happening all the time. People are in shock. They're in a fog. They don't know what to do. And our lives are complex and they're disorganized and they're all over the place. And Adam and I met often during this period of time and we said, we actually need to help people way beyond providing them content and articles and resources. We need to help them get a plan in place ahead of time. And so the Everplans, the platform, was created. Today, Everplans is a comprehensive platform that helps people get together, organize, store, share, and keep up to date everything that your family might need in the event that something happens to you. And by the way, also practical information that you need at your fingertips throughout your life. I keep Everplans on the home screen of my iPhone and have everything in there. And so over time, we ended up getting a book deal during COVID. Workman Publishing, the company that did What to Expect When You're Expecting, approached us and said, this is we want to help you write this book. It's called In Case You Get Hit by a Bus, How to Organize Your Life Now for When You're Not Around Later. And Everplans, since we started, has had over 30 million people engage with our resources. 170,000 people have created vaults on the platform, and we're really proud of the fact that people have shared and stored over 3 million pieces of information. The way that it works is that people, anybody can come to the site, whether they're coming directly or given this benefit through their employer. They can upload information, whether it's wills, life insurance policies, healthcare directives, online accounts, but we also get people putting in like their pet vaccine records or your health ID information or your passport information, your driver's license, or really everything. My favorite section is recipes that we put in that we want to make sure get passed down from generation to generation and not lost in the shuffle. People upload this information, and then we make sure that that information gets shared properly with the people in your life, and we call those people deputies. We have thousands of articles, resources, guides, checklists on everything from, like I said, how do you write a will, but also things like how do you deal with grief? And by the way, we now offer grief coaching on the platform as well. Because one of the things I realized going through the loss of my brother is that as a young person in their 30s or 40s, nobody knows how to deal with people who are dealing with grief. Nobody knew what to say to me. We want to change that. We want to help people know what to say and how to deal, because we know it takes a huge toll also on workplace productivity. The system also sends you reminders and nudges like, hey, your passport's about to expire, or your driver's license is about to expire. You need to do that before you're going on your next trip. Or it's been a year since you looked at your will. It might be time to revisit that. And then lastly, the system is amazing in that it's kind of like magic, where it helps you to realize that there might be gaps in your plan. If you tell us that you're young and you have 2 kids and you don't have any life insurance or any other types of insurance in the system's going to say, hey, what about this or what about that? Everplans is a comprehensive solution at this point. We're really excited to announce that we have 2 new partnerships in place. One is with Quicken Willmaker to allow for employees or other members on the platform to actually go the extra mile and create the legal documents. And then another partnership in place that's going to allow our users to actually access grief coaching when they need it. So now we're going to get into the meat of the presentation. I'm not going to take up too much time because we don't have a lot of time, but really to tell you about the way that we think about planning ahead for the unexpected. These are the types of topics that we are really actively trying to educate people about, so that everybody, including everyone in this room and all the people that you work with, can start to make progress. But so the 4 pillars of life and legacy planning include, number 1, important documents, like we just talked about, wills, power of attorney, etc. What insurance you may have that you need to make sure gets organized properly, or insurance policies that you may need to get in place that you haven't even thought about. Money, assets, all the different types of accounts that you have, whether it's financial accounts, digital accounts, vehicles, information, etc. And then lastly is legacy, how you want to be remembered. And so first we talk about legal documents. This is probably the thing that most people think about when they think about, in case you get hit by a bus, what do I need to do? Wills, who gets access creating a will in the first place, and have you named guardians, or do you need to name guardians? Power of attorney, who needs to be making financial decisions and legal decisions on your behalf if you can't? And lastly is advanced directives, who should be making healthcare decisions on your behalf and if you can't. And it's really the hard part in doing all of this is actually not in creating the documents, it's really in making the decisions. And Everplans helps people to think those things through and make the decisions. Next, it's insurance. So we all think about life insurance and needing life insurance, but there's a lot of other types of insurance policies that either you have or you don't have, but you need to get. Life insurance, health insurance, auto insurance, pet insurance, liability insurance. And so what we tell people is, first, it's about figuring out what policies you already have. Make sure that the policies are documented, that the paperwork is somewhere safe. You could put it in Everplans or somewhere else, and that your family knows that the policies exist. billions of dollars go in unclaimed insurance policies each year because family members, and by the way, we know a lot of families that this has happened to, where the husband has done a policy, the wife has no idea, he has a heart attack, and now she doesn't have the money. When we look at all the different types of accounts, everyone in this room knows what I'm talking about. We have so many different types of accounts, whether it's a checking account, savings account, credit card accounts, IRAs, 529s, same thing. Make a list of what accounts you have. Make sure that at least your top 5 or 10 accounts are jotted down, that the information about them is accessible, that your family knows what they are. And if you're not comfortable putting actual account numbers in an Everplan, for example, or sharing with anybody anywhere, just at least document what accounts you have and who to call. Because this was the type of stuff that drove us crazy and can drive people crazy when you're in the fog of having to deal with an emergency and having to track stuff down like this. I'm telling you, it's a disaster. And then there's this whole area around getting your house in order. So this could be, the average person has 15 vendors or services associated with their household, whether it's the plumber, right, the contractor, the gardener, the babysitter. It's about figuring out who are the people that make your house work. We also talk about what are the things in your household that would become a huge problem for your family if you weren't around to help. I actually told this story at the last From Day One conference, but during COVID, we were living with my family, and my dad is 88, and it was their house, and the sink, the disposal wasn't working. And I said, Dad, the disposal's not working. And he goes, oh, let me show you how to fix it. And he takes a broom and he starts shoving it down the disposal. And then the disposal started working, and I was like, Dad, if you weren't, how would I know to do that? And so he was like, okay, I should put that in my Everplan. So we actually joke, but those are the little kinds of quirks that only you know about. We had a widow crying to us because she had no idea how to turn the lights on in her house because her husband had set up everything on the Nest. Just those kinds of things that become really, really heartbreaking. And then there's the digital estate. So the average person has 240 digital accounts. This number went up from 130 during 2020. So who knows what it's going to be like in the next 5 or 10 years. And the dominant method that people use for keeping track of the usernames and passwords is in their head. 65% said so this is right. And so what I personally recommend is to use a password manager, because if you use a password manager, the only thing you need to remember is the master password for your password manager, and then the password manager takes care of everything. But if you don't feel comfortable using a password manager, just do not put your passwords on sticky notes all over your computer. That's another issue. Lastly, this is about leaving a legacy. So this doesn't have to be scary. This doesn't have to be morbid. We actually think it could be kind of fun. But this is about you, and Everplans walks people through all of this. But this is about you thinking about how you might want to be remembered, your values, the things that are important to you, whether it's the organizations that you want to support, the religions that you want your family, the schooling that matters to you, about how your kids get brought up, all of these things, possessions and keepsakes, like I mentioned, recipes. This is where you get to create an ethical will or start to jot down the different types of things in your life that are going to be that you want to make sure get passed down. We actually also have sections on funeral planning if some of our users want to go the extra mile and do that. And we walk you through all of that in Everplans. Lastly, it's about updating, and we help our users through the platform. Literally, the platform helps people to keep their decisions up to date. And whether it's a marriage or a death or a divorce or new children or getting a cash windfall, these are moments in life when a lot of the decisions and paperwork and policies that you've put in place actually need to get revisited. And so what we know, though, and why we're here talking with employers, is that there's a real cost for being disorganized. This screen isn't working here, so I'm going to read you some of these. But that 53% are unmotivated by their own disorganization. There's been, studies that say 6 weeks are wasted per year by the average executive searching for lost information. 2 hours per day spent on average by employees looking for things, and only 21% of Americans employees give themselves an A for organization. So we know that disorganization is causing lost productivity. It's causing stress. It's causing emotional. Stress, which I know how I feel when I'm organized after I organize my Tupperware drawer. I don't know how you feel, but it makes me feel amazing, right? When we're disorganized, these are the kinds of things that are keeping us up at night. And so we know from being newer to the benefit space that there's a real tie between personal productivity, professional productivity, and feeling organized and feeling disorganized. So we're on a mission at Everplans to help people get into the daily habit of being better organized. And we're looking for people like you to help us come on this mission, to help us support employees with these kinds of resources, because not everybody is thinking about these things, and we know it's costing companies millions of dollars. So I just want to say thank you for having us. I'm going to be out there at our booth, Everplans. I would love to talk with you. We would love to hear from you. We'd love to get your feedback. And thank you. Thank you so much for having me.